Hello, welcome to the comeback seat, Sarah. How
Thank
are you
you.
today?
Better now.
I'm so glad you're in the seat. We have a lot to go over with, and I'm excited for the listeners to meet you and hear about your story, your journey, and everything you've been through in this short time span. So tell us a little bit about Sarah prior to your accident.
Prior to the accident. All right. So we're going back almost 14 years now. I have had a lot of different work in my life. All growing up, I always saw myself being a news anchor on MTV News. That was like the dream back in the day, right?
Yeah.
But my dad was very adamant. My stepdad was very adamant. You better go have a way to pay your bills on your way to LA, trying to break it into all this stuff. So I went to massage therapy school. So I had a background in massage and spa. And then I made it out to Palm Springs, ended up landing. It was similar to kind of what the goal was. It was like entertainment news for the Palm Springs area. So I had this really fun experience working in television. It was a new show. So I did everything back in the day. I did my own hair and makeup, my own clothes, wrote my own scripts, sometimes my own cameraman, just kind of learning the ins and outs behind and in front of the camera, all while also doing massage therapy as well and working in the spa industry. So I had a really great time working in television, loved it so much. And yet there was something that kept calling me back to the spa industry. So I ended up leaving Palm Springs, coming to Park City and working my way up and becoming a spa director. So I've got this really interesting background of both running a business and a spa, wellness, health, things like that, as well as marketing, television, camera work. And so it was interesting how both of these worlds have come back into play now post injury.
Now, how old were you when you became the spa director?
Let's see, I was 27, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 27.
So you're pretty young, and here you're in both Palm Springs and Park City are major tourists. So did you do a lot of people coming into town? You're in a high-end spa, I'm assuming.
Yep, it was a hotel spa industry. Yeah,
Okay.
so all transient, all vacationers for both locations.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Worked for the Westin in Palm Springs, and then I worked for it's now owned by Vail Resorts, but beautiful Park City Resort at the Canyons. So
Nice. And then so you're living in Park City, and you have a great group of friends that you hang out with. And tell us about the day that this happened.
Yeah. So I had just turned 30 that year and kind of living the dream, right? I had this great job, making more money than I'd ever made, great friends and family. I was newly dating a guy and that was going pretty good. And I remember actually going on a hike the morning of the injury and went up with the guy I was dating. And I said to him out loud, I just said, gosh, my life's so perfect right now. Like there is nothing about it I would change. I just started rattling all those things off in my head. And little did I know that about 4 hours later, everything would come to a crashing halt after getting flipped over on a four-wheeler. So
were you by yourself on the four-wheeler or your boyfriend was with you?
So I was riding my own and we were out there with another couple. So four-wheelers. And it was kind of like, we were cruising along. I was very inexperienced. They took it pretty easy. We're on like a fire dirt access road, not crazy trails. And at one point, the road kind of went up and around this bend. So the guys said, we're going to go up ahead. Just make sure it's clear. You girls wait behind. And a few minutes later, we see the other guy waving us up from on top of the hill. So I start going up in front, the other girl's behind me, and we don't realize that the guy I was dating was coming down the hill to let us know that it was safe. So we came around this bend going full speed in opposite directions. And my instinct just said, get off the trail. So I jerked the handlebars to the right. I remember in slow motion looking to my left and realizing that that guy had gotten so far out of the way that I would have just had to go straight and been fine. But instead I hit a ditch and my wheels started flipping and the entire machine started flipping. I was holding on for dear life and it landed on me multiple times, breaking multiple bones, almost every rib, my back, my clavicle. No organs were injured at all, but my spinal cord did get compressed and paralyzed me from the waist down instantly.
So did you know at that point instantly, like you just said, that your body's not moving?
Well, you know what's funny is that really until I went home from the hospital and rehab, I was just like, I'll be fine. I'll walk away from this. Like things like this don't happen to people like me, right? Like I'm sure we've all said things like that. And but I remember laying there and actually calming everybody else down. Like it's going to be fine. Just call Life Flight. I'll stay steady. The pain of my clavicle was really what was killing me. It's kind of like on the verge of snapping through the skin. And so that's really where all my focus was on that pain. But I found out later they were kind of pinching my toes and touching the legs, and they realized that paralysis was in place. I didn't realize that right away. I was just more focused on the pain.
Now, do you relive that scenario? What you just said, like if I would have gone straight, or have you let that go?
You know what? I've done a lot of therapy. I dove headfirst into therapy a few years ago, about 4 years post injury. I finally said, I got to face this crap. And what was happening was anytime I'd start to get momentum in life, I was realizing that I would like seize up and I would kind of sabotage my own stuff, because I just felt like if I get going too fast, if things start going too well, I'm going to flip over all over again, and I'm going to crash and burn. And I found this really great therapist in Hawaii, actually, and we did EMDR. And are you familiar with EMDR?
I'm doing that right now. Yeah.
It's liberating.
It's so hard.
It's so hard. And on the other side of it is like freedom. And so we processed through it, and it's kind of like the loop got closed. So now when I get momentum, that feeling doesn't come up anymore. It was tricky because I have full remembrance of everything. I was so coherent. I didn't black out at all. I remember the ground and the sky as I'm flipping. I remember looking back to my left and seeing him in slow motion. Like, I remember it all. But I've done so much work to not let it affect me anymore. But there was a long period of time that it really did. It can mess with you big time. So it's, I'm a firm, I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm an advocate for finding this great therapist. EMDR is amazing. I also did parts work and IFS therapy with her. Game changer.
That's so awesome. Now, Sarah, were you a tiny tater tot back then too? Like, were you tiny?
Definitely not as small as I am now. I'm a little tiny tot right now. That's for sure. It's funny. I love your sayings. I was a little bit bigger. I've always been kind of a curvy girl. I was also a very muscular girl. I was a gymnast all growing up. So I had real, just thick, strong quads and legs. So it's weird to look down at my legs now and, the atrophy of the muscles. And, that's been really, really hard. So
you're so gorgeous. And I just think of this ATV on this tiny little blonde. And I just amazing that you're here having this podcast with me, and your organs didn't get affected. That is amazing.
And my brain, I still have in my garage that helmet that I was wearing, and it's pretty beat up. And the thought of, I still have total coherence. My brain is fine, going through rehab. And, I was on the spinal cord injury floor. I went to Craig Hospital in Colorado. And then the other floor is the traumatic brain injury. And so we would see them from time to time in the different therapies, and just to sort of see like the blank stares and the emptiness in the eyes. And I remember being so grateful for my brain and so grateful for my hands, getting injured at the point that I did. I still have full use of my hands. I have such independence, and I do not take those two things for granted any day of my life.
That's right. That's right. So are you life flighted from this area, or did they give you? Okay. So you're
life flighted. An hour and a half, for life flight to ride. They ended up taking me to Las Vegas Hospital because we were down in Southern Utah, and took surgery right away, got rods and pins and plates and all the metals going on. And I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks there in Vegas. And then they transported me to Colorado, where I did rehab. And actually on the way to Colorado, I contracted spinal meningitis from an infection in Vegas. So by the time I touched down in Colorado, I remember I was just like, my head felt like it was going to explode. And by the time I touched down, I was pretty out of it. They said this one, the guy I was dating, he's always called her like this medicine woman. He's like, she had this long silver hair. He's like, she just placed her hand on you and just said, get this girl's spinal tap. Like, she just knew it right away. So there's about 10 days of just very, very sick with spinal meningitis, and then on to rehab. And then you get home, and then a whole other bag of, struggles of just getting back to life again.
And how were you mentally, your mental state after, when you're going through rehab? How are you feeling at this point? You're an active person, and then now you're in a wheelchair. You've been hit with reality that you might not ever walk again. And now what do you emotionally feel? What do you say back then? Because you've done a lot of work.
Yeah. I really got lost into the trap of denial and that fake happy, right? Like, yeah, it's good. It's great. Your voice is really high because you don't believe it, right? It's like up in your throat. And so I would do that because I also felt like I was burdening everyone around me. So the amount of guilt of just like, everyone's taking time off work and how much money it's costing and having to remodel homes and bathrooms. I'm just like, I felt like such a burden. So I just thought the least I can do is be pleasant to be around. But what was happening is that pressure was causing so much discomfort behind closed doors. When I was alone, I had no one to talk to. I refused to be any part of the disability community. I just thought, I'm not even going to be friends with anyone in it. Like, I'm not going to be in this forever. I'm going to walk again. Like, I don't even want to talk to you people. I'm not one of you, right? Like, I just felt so different. I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in with my old life. I didn't fit in with disability. It was just like, I didn't fit in anywhere. And so behind closed doors was really dark. And there were many, many days where I didn't want to wake up. And I really contemplated how to just end it all. I just thought, there's no way I can do this. And then I would think about, well, that's an even bigger burden. Like, how could I do that after they've done so much for me? So it was really, really hard.
Did you ever turn to any pain meds or addiction or anything like that? You were just...
No, thank goodness, actually, because I have, I don't talk about this often, but I have quite a bit of addiction in my family. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if it was just seeing that and not, being so anti, but I definitely, I didn't struggle with it myself. And yeah, thank God, because I know that it's easy to do. We'll just say.
Sure. And then what happened to this boyfriend?
The boyfriend, oh gosh, everyone always wants to know. So we ended up getting married. We got married on the anniversary date of the accident because we were like, we're going to change this day to a good day. We ended up having a little boy, my little guy, Charlie. And then,
congratulations.
Thank you. Love being his mom. And then we ended up splitting. We're no longer married. We split it was back in 2020. And it was just, we finally got really honest. I remember having a really honest conversation of, there was no way I was going to leave him because I was damaged goods. No one's going to want me. He stuck around. How could I ever leave him? And then on his side, he's like, I could never be that guy to leave you. Like, there's just no way. And so we failed to really look at the relationship as a relationship and really what we wanted, or if we wanted each other. I mean, we were newly dating. We were just having fun. We hadn't said, I love you. Like, it was just so new. And then you get thrown into this trauma situation with each other and you bond over that. And you think there's no way we could ever leave that. I think it's really important to also really look at it with the disability and the things out of it and the injury out of it, of, is this someone that I would still choose? And, we've had some great, honest conversations about it, that it just really wasn't meant to be, which was it was hard. It's hard to be the one to leave, for sure.
Yeah. And have you met someone else since then, or are you just enjoying life right now? Not that anyone would detour your funness, but...
I'm newly opening my heart. We'll just put it right like that.
I love that. And then when did you start to, because we're going to get into how you met Tony Robbins and Mel Robbins, because you are a success now. So tell us that journey without me having to ask you 100 questions, but tell us how you went to that route.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had moved to Maui, and I had really kind of made this conscious decision, like, I'm ready to dive into my healing. I'm ready to meet healers. I'm ready to face the pain in physical, mental, emotional, everything. And so I really started to meet all those healers. I met personal trainer that, we would talk personal development while we work out, change the relationship with my body. I met my therapist, a dance teacher. I met, I did women's circles. I went to Codependence Anonymous. Just all these really great healing environments. And with that, I became really interested in personal development. And I ended up having a really big physical transformation, to the point that my trainer and I started our first business together called Disability Icon. He would do the fitness training. I did the emotional and kind of confidence training for all women who were wheelchair users in some way, shape, or form. That was who we marketed to. And it was great. It was amazing, actually. And the transformations we saw within the group, absolutely gorgeous. And I wanted to host a retreat for them. And I thought, well, Carl, if I'm going to be hosting an event, I better go to an event. I better actually see what happens in these events.
Cool.
And I ended up getting a ticket. I got 2 tickets, actually, to go to Tony Robbins' event, Unleash the Power Within. It's back in 2019. And I gave the other one to my trainer. I actually tried to I asked my spouse at the time, he didn't want to go. None of my girlfriends wanted to go. I was like, it's Tony Robbins. Like, why would you not want to go?
I would jump at the opportunity.
This is me. Heck yeah. And I was down to like a week and a half before. I was like, I don't know who to take. So I finally was like, well, my trainer, I was like, actually, that probably would be good anyways, considering he's business partner. But anyway, so we head over to this Tony Robbins event. And I love this story because I feel like it really was the catalyst for so much that, I got there super early. I flew in like a day earlier than my trainer. I got there really early the morning of the event. So I was like first in line at the door. And so I was waiting all day and making friends with the people around. And long story short, the girl pulls me aside. She says, since we open these doors, it's going to be like a mad dash. It's going to be a herd of cattle running towards their seats. So I'm going to let you go in first and go take your seat. And she ends up giving me this guy, Steve. Steve takes me to ADA seats. And my heart just broke. First of all, I'm the first one in this audience, right? And I am at the very back of the auditorium. I think it sat like 4,000 or 5,000 people in here. And the ADA seats are like the upper rim, so far away. And I was just like, this is BS. Like, what is happening? And so I was like, but Steve, I was like, I could go sit on the floor seats because those are flat. Everything else is stadium seats on a slant. He's like, not a chance. He's like, those seats are like 80 grand a year to be in those seats. And I remember this changed everything. I was like, I didn't ask if I could. I said, how can I get down there? And I think that's a really good thing for just people to understand. Like, don't ask for yes or no. There's always a way. There's always a way. Maybe the only way is to pay the money, right? Didn't have the money. I thought there's gotta be another way. Steve ends up introducing me to this woman, Nyla, and she'd had those seats for many, many years. And her and I just had this beautiful moment. She just said, this entire weekend, I want you to stay out of here. And she just like pokes me on the head. She's like, you stay out of that head. She's like, I want you to play so full out from your heart. She just puts her hand on my chest. She's like, just play so full out. And it's always going to be in you. It's like, oh, I will. She's like, well, then I want you to come down to the floor seats with me. And I want you to enjoy these 4 days down on the floor. And she introduces me to Brian, the floor manager. He's like, where do you want to sit? It's like, I just want to touch that stage. I want to be front row, right up front. So he puts this big white X of tape on the floor. He's like, this is your spot. And it was so wild. And meeting those people that were down there on those seats and the experience I had. And, I was surrounded by so much money because it's very expensive to have those seats, but I was surrounded by so much heart. These people just wanted to do good in their world. They wanted to be better people. And it was just like, there was such a drive. I loved it. I craved it. And meeting all these beautiful friends. Well, lo and behold, a couple months later, I get this phone call and they said, we have done a survey amongst our platinum partners. Those are the ones that have those seats. And we're looking for what they're calling the fruits of the spirit. Fruits of forgiveness, fruits of growth, fruits of all these different fruits. And they were doing it around the holidays. And they said, you have been nominated by the platinum partners as the fruit of growth. And I thought, oh my goodness. And so I got to be featured on Tony Robbins' podcast because I'd been nominated by how I'd shown up within this group of people. Anyways, they do the interview and they say, well, we don't want to feature you on the growth one. I was like, okay. And I was like, well, that interview didn't go very well. And said, no, we want to put you in the forgiveness bucket. Like, we want this to be the forgiveness episode. So we really did talk about just the power of forgiveness, forgiving myself. I had to go through a lot of work to forgive. It was then my husband at the time of the accident because I was holding him really accountable to this accident. I needed someone. And so, there was this like undercurrent of like, you put me in this chair kind of anger, right? And resentment. And so having to let that go and forgive. So anyways, they featured me on that. And then from there, I ended up getting to ask like the last question at the Business Mastery of Tony Robbins a couple of years after that. And then they gave me a call just this past year and a half ago now. And they said, we want to do a follow-up story on you. We've been watching your success. We've been paying attention to you ever since that first event. And they came into the whole film crew flew in and filmed me in my office and my home with my little boy. And it was just such a powerful experience. And I mean, that's what I love so much about Tony Robbins and his community is just, it's heart, it's soul, it's growth. It's like, how can we just be better humans? And I love that.
That is such an awesome experience for you. And to have all these, do you still talk to Nyla?
Nyla actually passed away. Nyla passed away. And yeah, I got the call and it was absolutely heartbreaking, but I'd spoken to her over the years. And so her death was very sudden. It was not expected. And then I just got a call from Steve, it's about a month and a half ago. And he calls and he's like, I'm battling brain cancer right now.
Oh my God.
And it's just like these things get put in perspective. And I was just like, Steve, and he's like, don't you dare feel sorry for me, kid. He always calls me kid. He's like, kid, don't you feel sorry for me. He's like, I've lived one beautiful life. He's like, don't you dare give me that pity. He's like, I'm just calling to let you know. But he's like, I don't want your pity, kid. And he's a funny guy. He's kind of scruffy. He's just big old heart.
Now, do you guys still have the business, or because now you're into Icon and your conference, which I attended, and I thank you for that. That was amazing. I have to do it again because I can't find my notes.
Oh no, we'll have to do it again. That's all good.
Yeah, that was fun, and I had so many notes, and I'm like, where are my notes? Because I had a name picked up for me because you gave us homework. You gave us 5 people to pick. You know, there was and I needed to look at my notes, and I don't know where. I have so many journals around my house. I'm a paper person.
Same. And they're in no particular order. They're just a mess. It's interesting. So we did that business for a while. He ended up stepping away and I ended up getting certified as a trainer and had the business full on just myself. He's doing some really neat things as well. We still talk all the time. So I did that for a while. And then my heart, you ever gotten that kind of like itch, that inner voice is just like, you're in the wrong place right now. And I think what was happening is that we had all these clients come in and they were all saying kind of the same thing. I really just wish I was seen for the person I am and not the chair I'm in. I don't want this box anymore. I don't want to be thought of based on a stereotype. I want to be seen. Look at me. Don't look at my chair. Right? This is the story, yes. But look at me as a person, as a human. Talk to me. Right? And so I just kept thinking, I am hearing them, but I'm not hearing them. Because I'm keeping them in a program based on the chair. And I'm keeping that separation alive. And I thought, I need to just completely do away with that. No more putting anyone in any box or any chair. And it was more about, the thing that people kept asking me about was, how do I show up with confidence? How do I speak? How do I, whether it's speaking on a stage or speaking to, a partner or friends or whatever it is, or clients, like, how do I just like strengthen that voice? Because I was speaking on all these different stages and people just, they really wanted to understand how I was doing that. And I just thought, I need to pay attention to the things that I've been asking. And my heart was just getting, and my little gut was getting louder and louder of, I need to close the doors based on separation. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to close that. I still love the term icon. It was disability icon. Now it's Icon Speaker Academy, although now it's kind of a buzzword. I feel like everyone's using icon right now, but I just thought, it's about showing up for something different. And I tell you, I really feel like I found my sweet spot. I feel like I've really discovered where I am really, really powerful because I love it. I love everything about speaking. I mean, my background with the television and understanding in front of and behind the scenes of the camera, I understand that. And so to be able to teach that from a place of confidence and trusting your voice, because I do think that the reason why people are so terrified of public speaking is that they're so terrified of the judgment and they're so terrified of saying the wrong thing that they'll be judged. And so I really just teach people to trust their voice. That's really what it is, that when you trust your voice, you can speak and you can speak confidently.
And that all ties your background and everything, like you just said, that all ties together with giving us confidence, giving us the tools, giving us what we need to go forward and in life. And I think that's a blessing that you're out there helping people, basically.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels like I'm in the right place.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And now you live in Maui.
I'm actually back in Utah. I've been all over the place. Well, I keep coming back to Utah in between. I'm like, where are my palm trees at? I don't know. So palm trees maybe in the near future. I can't handle it without palm trees. But now I'm back in Utah. Utah has been really good to me, though. A lot of events, a lot of speaking opportunities, a lot of great clients here. And I'm a single mama, so I love being able to still pick up my little boy from school, and not be traveling so much with speaking. So.
And how old is Charlie now?
He's 11.
11. And how is he with his friends? And he's grown up with a mom in a wheelchair, and he probably shows you off, and he loves every second, I'm assuming.
I would hope so, but I am just still mom to him. It's just all he knows. Charlie's definitely, and I've had teachers even say this, Charlie sees the things that most people don't. He sees body language. He sees the unspoken. And he hears the unspoken and he's very tuned in. And I think that does come from having a mom with some extra needs going on, but also a mom that isn't going to bring attention to it. You got to see it, right? Like I'm not one of those people that wants pity. I don't want to be left out because of this. I don't, I really want to just show up and like my clients did, being seen for who I am and not the chair. And I think I've done a really good job with that with Charlie. He really does not see it as a limitation. He understands, and he's got a patience about him that goes in place when I need it. And then he's a kid every other time, right? Like, and then he's also impatient. So, but yeah, I think it's given him a sensitivity to things.
Yeah. And I wish parents would address disability a little bit more. I wish I would have, when Christian was growing up, things that we don't think about now that we're disabled. Like I made a comment on your confidence thing and I said, staring never gets more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And kids just kind of stare and they don't know how or why. Why do I have a walker when now I'm older, but why do I have a walker? Why, she's not 80, why does she walk with a walker, or why was she in a wheelchair? All of that stuff. I wish parents would. And I love that about Charlie and what you said about him seeing things differently, and knowing that it's okay. And he's going to grow up a strong man. Now, have you ever met, what is that? Jason Mimosa. It's he in Park City, Utah.
Jason Momoa,
yeah.
Oh, he's so hot. I never met him. He's a sexy man.
Yeah, when we were in Park City, we wanted to have that USA Olympic training area, which we'd love to go watch the shows there. And then we'd always be on the lookout for Jason. We're like, he's got to be somewhere.
Where's Jason?
We're going to see him. Anything that you would like to share with the listeners? Do you have another event coming up that's confidence building? Did you like that? Are you going to continue doing that?
Yeah, I had played around with doing it that way of, I did a pay what you can. I think that there's something really powerful when you do it not free. I do feel like people have to be invested in order to get something back, right? I've signed up for 1 million free events and not gone to any of them. And so I like having people invest. And also I do recognize that, the place I'm in, it's not always as affordable. And so it was really this great opportunity to keep the line going with people of all abilities, people that of all different, budgets, that I can still get that information out. And that actually really inspired me. I did it as kind of a means to come back to work, really. I was down from surgery. I had to have surgery on a pressure wound, and I had to lay face down for 2.5 months.
2.5 months. I didn't know how long because you were laying. You had to do the
2.5 months. And in the big scheme of things, 2.5 months isn't that long. When you're in it, it feels like forever. And so I just thought, what? The thing that brings me the most joy is teaching, is giving these classes. And so being able to do that was really fun. And I thought, if I'm not at 100%, I'm not asking for 100% financially, I'm still get back in, but I loved it. And I loved doing the pay what you can. I think I'm probably going to do that at least twice, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and just keep that going for people. I think it was really powerful. And I do run my Icon Speaker Academy. I do it once a year. We're actually open right now for enrollment. We start mid-April. And I'm so excited for this. I love it so much. We'll go through the course of 6 months, teaching people to really strengthen that voice, strengthen the confidence, public speaking, presence, everything you're saying without speaking. There's so much goodness and juiciness in this. And it really has become something I love so much. So I love being able to have, different options for people.
I love that description, juiciness.
Yeah.
When did you say that starts again?
April 15th is our first call. So
April 15th. Okay. I'll have to, include that when I promote our podcast, if you don't mind.
Great. Absolutely. I appreciate that.
And then can you go over real quick, because I don't remember exactly the details, but you had us come up with a description of our name. Can you just do that real quick? Is that how Vertically Blonde came about?
It's exactly how Vertical Blonde came out. So this all happened by accident. And then when I went through Tony Robbins training, I understood the genius that I actually was. We'll just say that. Because I came up with this silly name for myself, Vertical Blonde. And this was at the very, very beginning of my healing, right? When I started to meet all these healers. And what was going on was people back home in Utah, because I was out in Maui at that point, they wanted to know what was going on. How's the healing going? So I just thought, I'll just start a blog. I'll just start writing the stories of what's going on. And I just instinctually knew that whatever name I came up with was going to be really important, and it needed to be very intentional. And I thought, well, if I want to stand and walk again, I want to be vertical, I need to start calling myself vertical. And so I came up with Vertical Blonde. It sounded kind of sexy, assertive, strong. There was just kind of this fierceness when I would say it. I would sit up taller. And I started asking myself just on a micro level, what would Vertical Blonde eat today? What would she wear? How would she respond to that situation? What would she post? And I started seeing it from her lens, her being me at my fullest potential. Goals are already achieved. What did she do today to ensure that they come true? And so it just started to reframe and redirect my where I was headed on that really small level. And then over time, I didn't even recognize myself. Physically, I was fitter, healthier. My mindset was sharp and strong and growth minded, right? Like I was seeing from this vertical lens, like everything, there was an opportunity for growth everywhere. Everywhere had a lesson. I was speaking more. And it was fascinating that as I used this name, what version of me it called forth. So now that is what I call my iconic identity. And I believe we all have it. It is us and our fullest potential. It is like us at our core. When all the limits have been stripped away, who are we at that point? So I guide people come up with their own name and really, really get clear on what it represents. Right? And so we kind of go through the representation before we even come up with the name. Sometimes it comes to people really quick, but sometimes it takes a minute.
Yeah.
But what we do know is what it represents, right? Like if I asked you, like you at your fullest potential, how would you describe her?
Resilience.
Yeah. What else?
Funny.
Funny. I love that. What else?
Great.
She's great. She's great.
Everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome. She's singing all the time. There's beauty around her. She's resilient, right? She's finding the joy and the humor in it all. That's who you are in your fullest potential. And then we name her. And we give her a name. And then all you have to do is it's that simple. What would she do in this situation? How would she show up? And I guarantee it's different than how we have been, right? I would say there's a version we've practiced being, and then there's that icon in all of us. There is that potential in all of us. And it is amazing and great and so spectacular and bigger and better than we could even comprehend, because we're seeing it from a very limited space. We're seeing it from the limits that we've either experienced or self-imposed or maybe imposed from stereotypes, whatever it is. But those limits have started to get ingrained, right? And we start to see from the limited space. But if we start to see from potential, we start to see from that greatness, we start to see from that resilience, everything shifts. Everything. And
it's pretty powerful.
It's powerful, right? And it's simple and almost kind of silly. As people will be like, name. Right? Like, because I do this at
I love it.
time, and they're like, really? And I'm like, oh, you just watch. The ones that actually do this and run with it, you just watch how much further they get ahead of you.
Yes, definitely. Can I be resilient blonde?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're in the club.
I'm in the club. I made it. Good. I can't wait to meet all three of you: Tony Robbins, Mel Gibbs, and Sarah Foley. That would be like the ideal dream date.
There we go.
I'm a new person after 3 days.
Seriously.
So to wrap things up, I have a couple questions for you. You did a tutorial recently, and I didn't see the foundation you wear. Tell the ladies what foundation you wear.
I have just found this new one. I really like it. It feels very light. It is Laura Mercier, and it's their, I think it's called Lightweight or something. I think it's lightweight, something weightless. That's what it is. Weightless foundation. I just loved it. Yeah. So I found that, but I also found this eye cream that I'm loving right now, and it's Peter Thomas Roth, and it is just like the smoothness under the eyes, because that surgery time and that downtime, the time in the nursing facility from that, it just scanned and wrecked my hair, man. It was rough.
And then also, Sarah, thank you for sharing that. And then also, what is your favorite movie?
You know, this is hard because I feel like it depends on my mood. But I was thinking about this. The movie that I can watch over and over and over again and I never get sick of is The Departed. Have you seen it?
No, well, tell me who the actors are, because it's an older movie.
It's a little older. Leonardo DiCaprio. Matt Damon. Oh gosh, what's the guy? Here's Johnny. What's his name? From The Shining. Oh gosh, now I can't think of his name. It's like a very star-studded cast, but it's very much about like the mob and, you know, dirty cops, and I don't know.
You like the thriller part.
And there's twists and turns that you don't expect, and for whatever reason, that's one that I can watch over and over. So
okay, I'll have to watch that one again. I know I watched it probably a long time ago, but I don't remember. I should, as many people as you named, and how fun it sounds. And then one last thing: what would you tell the listeners today? What advice would you give the listeners today that are listening to Sarah Foley tell her story? That might be in a place, a dark spot, depressed, whatever your energy is enough for them. But what would you tell the listeners today?
Well, play off that word. I say this a lot, that our energy is our currency, and our energy is truly how we're transacting with life. And if you're getting a poor transaction and you're getting circumstances that you don't like, the best thing we can do is take ownership. That I have caused it. It may not be my fault, but I am in control of what it is doing to me. And that's why even the power of forgiveness was so powerful, right? It's just, it wasn't even about what it did for the other person. It's what it did for me. And ownership is vital when we have an awareness that we are the ones that are creating our lives. We are the one in creation mode. That means that we can create it however we really, really want. It does take work. And I'll leave on this, that one of my early mentors told me this, and it still is, it goes through my head constantly. And she said, only we can heal ourselves, but we cannot do it alone. I can't do this alone. I needed all my healers, and I needed to be a student and a teacher. I think the more that we can put ourselves in those situations where we are a student, we are eating it up and we are taking ownership for that, and then we go and we teach it to others, it's a really powerful way to kind of keep the world moving around and around and get us outside of ourselves.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for being in the seat today. We really enjoyed you as a guest.
I love this.
To watch you and all your success. And I'm going to look into the April classes and I'll link that to your story today. And thank you. It was super great seeing you again and meeting you again. And I look forward to another confidence building class, your master classes, everything. You're awesome. You're amazing, Sarah. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the honor. Beautiful, beautiful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to sign off here.